Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello and welcome to Movies versus Capitalism, an anti-capitalist movie podcast. I'm Rivka.
And I'm Frank. And we're gonna breeze right through this A block, folks, because what we got coming up is a duet with more of just me and Rivka talking to each other, and also both of us. It's the end of the workday, or it's into the evening now at this point.
It is.
One of us is about to have a baby,
So we're feeling breathless, tired, ready to go watch some more TV. Although, you know what I will say to you, Frank, actually? I know we were going to keep this short.
Yeah.
But I would say this I think we talked about it a little, but like dying for sex, for anyone listening, dying for sex was one of my favorite things that I've seen. It's not necessarily like political, although as we know, everything has politics, but it was one of the most moving, unexpected shows I've seen in a really long time. I think a lot of people aren't watching it just because I don't know. When I ask people why not, they're like, I don't know. It's the ads are not doing it. And it kind of looks like it's going to be just about she has stage 4 cancer and she gets her sexuality back. And while sexuality is part of it, it's so much bigger. And I will say, like, I have never seen friendship like portrayed in such a profound way. Like, it was one of those shows where it ended and I called all my friends and I'm like, I love you so much.
Oh.
Because we're in a culture that like only seems to honor like non-platonic. That's not what you would call it. What love? Why can't I? This is why we're not doing a full
romantic.
Romantic is the word. The relationships where you have intercourse. Yeah. And I think I saw something recently. It was like, some most intimate, profound soul relationships are friends.
Yeah.
And this show just really honored that and just was about healing, about like death in a really empowering way. So I'll just use this time to say shout out to that show and Michelle Williams. Oh my God.
Oh, one of our best. One of our absolute best.
I also watched The Pit because of your rec.
Wait, did you finish it already?
Finished The Pit. Oh yeah, I finished The Pit in like 2 days.
I haven't finished it, so no spoilers for the last several episodes. It's so goddamn good.
So goddamn good. And I'm weird like that. Like, my mom hates hospital. Like, some people are like, why would you watch that if you're about to go and give birth? I'm like, because I want to see it all. I like watch them put the needle in. Like, I'm just different. Like, I'm built different. I'm like, it makes me feel ready. I go into the hospital for my checkups and like, you know, all the doctors in the pit there is like with the hand sanitizer walking. I'm like, just pretending.
I have like no interest in hospital shows, in cop shows, in firefighter shows, like any like procedural thing I've never like personally taken to.
Yeah.
I find them to be like incredibly rote and over sensationalized and like pretty dumb at times.
Totally fair. Yeah. I never did Grey's Anatomy or any shit like that.
Oh yeah. Or just like so caught up in like the melodrama of it all or whatever. But The Pit is like, I mean, I've never worked in a hospital, obviously, but I have read and heard that like people who work in emergency medicine are like, yo, this is actually the most accurate hospital show I have ever seen in my entire life. And it really, like, it has that like verisimilitude of what I imagine it must fucking be like to work in fucking emergency medicine in an ER. It's crazy. It's crazy. Well done.
And for anyone who doesn't know, like, the structure of it is like the whole series just is one day. So you like episode one is like like an hour. So you're like, it ends at the end of the shift. It's fucking amazing. No, Wiley's amazing. I might burst your bubble, and maybe you already know this a little, but one of Frank's favorite topics, Nepo babies. Did you know this show is chock full?
Oh no, I didn't, but I'm not surprised. Who, all of the kids, all the young doctors?
It was just kind of like,
who do we got?
You have Bryan Cranston's daughter. Like the one.
Shit.
Yes.
Who is she?
She's the she's really good, but it's like funny because you're like, she's unassuming and you're like, fuck. She's the one who has the sister who I think is autistic.
Oh, Dr. Mel King.
Yes, Mel.
Who's neurodivergent herself.
Who's also neurodivergent.
That's she's Bryan Cranston's daughter?
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, she's like pretty good.
They're all, everyone's really good. And then you have a few, like, I think there's Nepo, there's a few sneaky Brits.
Sure. I don't mind a sneaky Brit. Because
that's like sneaky Brits.
They're doing, they gotta put on that accent, They gotta do the work.
But no, that one, there was like a few they showed, I can't remember now, but that one I was like, oh wow. Mm-hmm. Well, you did get the chops.
Yep.
So, okay, sorry, we weren't gonna do anything, but then I was like, I'm gonna have to talk to Frank about this off mic anyways, so might as well share it with y'all.
There's so much good TV right now. I am like behind on TV. This is a TV episode. We get, but I'm behind on The Righteous Gemstones, which has been back and fucking on fire. The Rehearsal just came back. I know you have thoughts on The Rehearsal, but
I have thoughts on The Rehearsal, but of course I watched.
Oh, I haven't watched it.
I mean, fascinated to see where we go with this. Fascinating. There's themes of aviation, folks.
Wow. Okay. Maybe we'll do a check-in on some more TV stuff.
Also, like, I'm just have taken in so much content because now I'm just sitting here waiting. So
that's right.
But I finished The Pit. It was like, that was the best thing. And when The Pit was over, I was like, how am I supposed to
go on?
How am I supposed to get to this labor now? I'm like, it was so great. But Dying for Sex, I think I'd say is like, in terms of art. Yeah.
Okay.
But get ready to like, I haven't cried like that in a long time. Tommy, I don't think I've ever seen him cry that hard.
Wow.
During like, like for like, where you're like, there's a cry moment, but when you're just like, oh, we're still going. Or you're like, what does that sound?
You okay?
You're still going.
Are you okay?
No, that was us constantly. We're like, I'm not okay. But like in a like cathartic, not like everyone watch it. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Cool. We're going to get to the two shows that we're really here to do.
Yes. Let's do that. But before we do, just our standard reminder, folks, we don't sell ads on this show. We rely on community support to keep it going. So if you want to support this show, you can do that by subscribing to our Patreon.
Yep. And we've had some new subscribers in the past month. So thank y'all. For $5 a month, you get access to new bonus episodes and our entire back catalog. Our Patreon link is in the episode description in your podcast player or at mvcpod.com.
Also, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on your player so you do not miss new episodes, and it helps other people find the show by boosting the algorithm, so thank you.
And because we donate our ad space, if you are part of a leftist or progressive organization that you would like to run an ad on this program, that can be a mutual aid org, that can be so many things. So just email us at moviesvscapitalism@gmail.com.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Rivka and I talking about Severance and the White Lotus. Hey everyone, we've got a great organization we want to tell you about called Creatives Thrive NYC. CTNYC helps artists and creatives build the financial skills to keep art a priority in their lives while still putting food on the table. CTNYC is an innovative year-round training initiative providing expert financial knowledge, trusted resources, and a network of reliable partners to help creatives thrive in a chaotic and unjust economy.
CTNYC is a partnership between Art Built, Pam and Dialect, Get Shameless, and the Entertainment Community Fund, formerly the Actors Fund. These fully funded, completely free workshops share real-world financial tools as well as methods to build a life that fits your budget and your values.
These workshops are 100% virtual, and you do not need to be in New York or even the United States to join. Workshops begin from November 2024 and continue through June 2025.
Register at artbuilt.org/CTNYC and check out artbuilt.org, getshameless.com, and entertainmentcommunity.org.
Hello, we're here. It's Rivka and I for another duet. Today, we will be discussing TV shows, which we don't usually do. We're going to devote an entire episode. Yeah, we've done it before. We did like the Succession finale.
That's right. But we focused on one episode. I think
that's true.
This will be the first time we're doing a grand seasons.
Full seasons. And not just of one show, 2 shows.
Yeah.
But we've been, listeners have been writing in and saying, "Oh, would love to hear you guys' thoughts on Severance and the White Lotus," because those just both wrapped, around the same time. Severance a few weeks ago, but White Lotus just last week. And we're like, fuck it. Yeah, let's do it. While it's still fresh, we can do it right now. We're not going to go through the entirety of each season because that's
couldn't if I wanted to. Absolutely no room in this brain for that.
No. Rivka's baby brain is absolutely has no space for. Doesn't even remember what happened at the beginning of any of these seasons. But we're going to talk about the seasons in totality, kind of our big takeaways from each one. Because they've been really kind of like at the forefront of culture. It's not too often anymore that we get TV shows that are this like monocultural. And I felt like for a minute there, Severance and White Lotus were kind of both very much at the forefront of everyone's minds.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think it's still class. I think
solid
it's still probably
agreement.
No, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I'm sure it's like class and race related too. I'm sure that's still like, I'm sure it's not that, but you know what I mean? I'm sure like.
Sure. Yeah. That's a good point.
Have to like, yeah.
Yeah, we are very much siloed in our
I feel like there's still
liberal
kind of like
bubble.
Rather white shows.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're totally right about that.
And probably more middle class shows, if I had to take a guess. Not that they don't, but yes, in terms of that sense, in terms of like cultural, where the media's, that media's talking.
Sure. Point taken. I retract what I said. So we're going to talk about the shows that white people love, as it turns out. What do you want to start with? Do you want to start with Severance or White Lotus?
Let's start with Severance.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. It was a little bit... Severance wrapped a few weeks ago. Yes, we're talking about the TV show Severance, created by Dan Erickson. Usually we give all of the production filmmaker credits, but there are too many for TV shows, too many writers, too many directors.
Let's cut those writers' rooms down. You know what I mean?
This is not because we are not honoring and respecting the work of writers. This is just for time, because there are dozens of writers. It was a joke.
That was a joke. Oh.
Yes, we're huge
we
supporters.
Like big, abundant writers' rooms.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do. So Severance. This was the second season, the long-awaited second season of Severance, and I think, at least for me, not as successful as the first season. I think the first season was pretty incredible, pretty impactful in the story that it was telling, and then in this season, once they actually had to sort of direct the plot of the story towards some sort of endpoint, towards some sort of resolution, then, as is often with these sort of mystery box shows, the writers realize like, oh, maybe we don't actually know exactly where this is going, or like what the point of the story that we're telling is, or what we're trying to say. So yeah, ultimately I didn't feel like I loved. There were moments of it, and we'll talk about some of those. I love the performances in this show. I think this is probably one of the most well acted shows. It's definitely one of the most beautiful shows in terms of production design, direction, costume, set decoration, all of that stuff. So there are like, aspects of it that I really loved and was really compelled by in terms of like character development and plot. But a lot of it I thought fell kind of flat. Yeah. What was your big feeling coming out of season 2?
Yeah. So I had the privilege and honor of watching this like full binge, at least until a certain part of season 2, when I was like, I realized the binge was up and I had to wait like everybody else.
That's right. So you watched it like this year, like pretty recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I watched season 1 knowing I had season 2 coming. Like that's knowing nice. I had like 4 episodes, which is the way I think it needs to be done. Because as soon as it slowed down, I was not happy. I was not happy waiting. It was too much time to contemplate if I was ever going to get any answers, like you said. And like, be like, what? Why am I fucking watching this? I need to know what these fucking numbers mean. Like, they're not going to do a Lost on me. But up until that point, I just felt like that way of watching like helped me. So it's hard to like think about them as separate seasons, I guess is my point, because I got to watch it all as one thing. But damn, having not had season 1, I was like, I see why this show is as highly rated as it is, and why people love this fucking show.
Mm-hmm.
And also why it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, why the politics of it are so, I mean, what a fucking great, I'm just so happy it's such a great show to talk about worker alienation as like a starting point for anyone who's never.
Oh, it's an unbelievable premise. Like one of the greatest elevator pitches of all time.
Great elevator pitch. Also, like, I'm sure Karl Marx would like love this shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's such a clear, it's such a clear form of like, this is what is meant when we're talking about worker alienation on many levels. So you have like the level of the worker being alienated from the literal work they're doing. But this concept of severance is, I mean, you could replace severance with alienation with severance of like the dissection of yourself from yourself.
Yes.
Or yourself from your work or yourself from your relationships. They just take it to another level.
Yes. And just to underscore this for anyone who might be curious, alienation in a Marxist sense describes the feeling of detachment and estrangement a worker experiences from their labor, the products of their labor, their fellow workers, and even their own human potential within a capitalist system. Meaning that the exploitative and monotonousness and bullshittery of so much work in a capitalist system leaves workers feeling completely alienated, like I just said, like from their own work, from the products of their labor, from everyone around them. That's why, all like the film Office Space is a perfect example of this, of just how working such a tedious, honestly pointless office job leaves people feeling like they themselves are useless, or their lives that they are leading are useless in some way.
And it was really helpful. I think like like when I was first learning the concept, it was hard. It's hard to even watch Office Space or even Severance when we're so inundated. We're so in it. Most of us are alienated, experiencing alienation. In some part of our life as like in this world that is this capitalist world.
And it's not just something you can feel that you only feel at work. It's something you can feel in other aspects of your life.
It's permeated everything, particularly, and I want to talk about this more like as consumers and as political beings, because it's such a useful tool for capital. But, just like back when Marx was writing, it was like this transition from someone who, let's say, like your craft is making that watch. Like you are the watchman. You might trade to get the leather. You might trade to get like the tools, and also, but you would own the means of production. You would be the craftsman. So you would have that experience from beginning to end. You'd have the satisfaction of knowing why you were doing what part of the job you were doing. Mm-hmm. And you would have that creative connection to your craft and from start to finish.
Yeah, you were an artisan.
And then you would trade or sell, but you weren't working for a capitalist and you weren't selling your labor, and you own the means of production, all of that. So here, it's such a great example of just like, and I think one of the most frustrating parts of the show that I do, like, as an audience, I'm like, oh, fuck, I keep getting like, when I'm not thinking about the politics, and I'll just be like, they better fucking tell me what those numbers mean and how this works. But like, what a brilliant conceit for actually how so many of us are disconnected from the majority of the things that we have. Like, none of these workers, beyond being literally severed their innie from their outie, they don't know what they're working on. They just know I go and put the number in the boxy thing. And so it's great that we as the audience get to experience the frustration of like, wait a minute, what the fuck is that fucking number thing doing? But most of the shit, you pick up anything you own and you're like, I don't know where. I mean, look at where we're at now of like with the tariffs and people being like, wait, what comes from where? I'm sorry. This is the stuff that I'm buying on Canal Street is literally the same as it's being marked up. Like everyone's, you know what I mean? Like economics, like it's sort of like we're seeing so many moments of just like our severed parts, our innie and our outie, which we all have in so many ways. And so it's a great framework to talk about these things, being kind of shook in these moments, just like it happens to Mark in season 2 of like, wait a minute. I guess I don't know what the fuck is going on at all.
Yeah. What's the refrain they always use is like, the work is important and mysterious, and it's supposed to imbue the severed workers with this feeling that they are contributing toward something greater. But they are also, this is something we see after the advent of like the assembly line is also like once workers are either de-skilled or when there is a separation of labor, when you're only working on one small task, it's like, I don't even like, I know that I'm doing this one little thing, but it's part of something greater that I don't understand and I'm not connected to whatsoever. And in the case of Severance, they're literally like, I don't know. We have not been told what the fuck we are doing.
Right.
But it's something that you see like, when we watched Modern Times, where it's like, if you're on an assembly line and you're just doing one repetitive motion over and over and over again, you have no connection to the things you're actually building. Like you're saying in like the artisan example, where it's like you are creating something from inception to finish. So these workers on the severed floor are just so far removed from whatever the fuck is actually happening, and then also actually cut off from the outside world itself. And there's also another term that I wanted to bring up in regards to Severance, which is wage slave, which is another term. I don't know if it's like an explicitly Marxist term, but it is like a very like a leftist term about how, people in a capitalist society, like let's say modern day America, for example, think like we are free because we are free to sell our labor to the highest bidder, to go and peddle our wares, to go start a business, whatever. But if you're selling your labor, once you enter the workplace, you are entering into basically a contract with the capitalist, with the business owner, that like when you are paying me, you basically own me and my body and my mind for this time that you are paying me, whatever that hourly wage is, yearly salary, whatever. But like, it is a form of slavery. I mean, I hold to that.
Oh, completely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's brilliant about the show is that like, yeah, you feel like the answer, the freedom anecdote is the severance, is the alienation, is like, well, if you don't have to feel that, then you are free. But it's never, that keeps them from ever questioning, why would we have to be severed to begin with? And that's what I'm excited about. I really hope season 3 gets into the bigger world picture of like and like hopefully some kind of rebellion. We know that there's activists who are against this, but more who are against just like, who are against like the moral idea of literally severing a human being.
Yes.
We are also in a world where people are very accepting of it, including like, even if they're upset about it, it's like, what's fascinating about it is like, it is a world where capitalism has normalized alienation so much that it just does feel like actually severance is the freedom from this capitalist society, not actually changing the system, which is just so remarkable because it's so how I think a lot of people a lot of us think, and I fall into thinking too of like, God, it's too hard to change the system. So let's find alternatives where we can just survive. And like, it's so clear why the concept of severance is a breath of fresh. You understand why we all do sever ourselves in many different aspects, including how I've like, I was just thinking about like, what are the ways I've seen severance occur now? And it's like, the apathy mindset, this concept of like, I actually can't lose my self-care and my well-being, so I can't think about this stuff. Because we've been offered this severance, which makes sense. Like people have been told, like under capitalism, you've got to divide and conquer. You are not a full human being. And to me, I'm like, actually, I don't know. I feel like a lot of my recovery, my well-being is like, I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, if I don't look, I know that causes me more deep harm and anxiety than the apathetic approach. But I think there is such a desire to be like, I can't do anything about it, so I'm just not going to look. Like, why? I just, hands up, sever me.
Truly. Literally today on Instagram, I think like Sydney Sweeney just did some brand partnership with like a tennis, or maybe it's like Nike or something, but she did this photo shoot where she's like on a tennis court in some like, athleisure or like, so I honestly don't even know the brand, but then like a bunch of other outlets like picked it up and it was like Sydney Sweeney stuns in this like new like tennis ad. And I was just like looking at all these outlets and I'm like looking and like she's posting about it. And I'm just like, You would never guess by looking at these posts that literally just yesterday, Trump was caught on a hot mic saying that he wants to deport U.S. citizens to an El Salvadorian like prison labor camp. I'm like, what? the disconnect, the absolute, and I'm not saying that everyone has to be like on it doing stuff 100% of the time, but you like see things like this and you feel like the cognitive dissonance is so astounding, and it hits me where I'm just like, am I fucking going out of my mind? Like, are things actually fine? It seems like Sydney Sweeney's doing okay. Like, maybe actually things aren't as bad as I thought that they were.
Yeah, it's the innie versus the outie world. It's the Millichick. It's the cantaloupe watermelon party or whatever. You know what I mean? It is like, yeah, that's why I just think the value of the show, it's like people have this, who watch it, you have this shared language to be like, that's what's fucking, and what's great is like, at least my assumption is that's where they're headed, right? Where we were left in season 2 is to assume like, this is, now we're maybe getting to something bigger. Like, this isn't just about alienation in the workplace. This is about alienating people on a larger scale from their own pain.
I hope so. And I
fucking hope so.
I fucking hope. No, truly, I hope so. And I would love to hear more of like Dan Erickson, the creators. I would love to learn more about his politics. We tried to interview him when I was still at the Lever, and his team was just like, not doing interviews. But we were like talking about it. We're like, this is such an incredible show about the relationship between capital and labor. And like, I'd like to unearth more of what's going on there. And I say that because, you know, I listen to a bunch of like normie liberal movie and TV podcasts. And like, you and I are picking up on this, and I'm sure like leftists pick up on these themes, but like
there's some great stuff on the internet for sure.
There's great stuff on the internet, but the things that those normie podcasts are talking about, they do talk about like, oh yeah, they're showing about how like work sucks and how like jobs suck and how, you know, like they make people do stupid, annoying, tedious things at work. But the big angle that I am often hearing spoken about is like, yeah, what would it require? Like how, basically through like the Mark S character, like how emotionally traumatized would you need to be in order to need to sever yourself for part of your day, just so you're not having to live through whatever the trauma of, you know, for him, losing his wife, for Dylan, you know, of being like a big loser or whatever. But they come at it much more from the angle of like, what's going on in like the personal choice that someone would actually want to like sever themselves for half of the day. Like, that's the more interesting thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's good character grounding and that's good character development. But ultimately, that's not what this show is about. Like, I don't give a shit that Mark Scout doesn't know how to grieve his wife. Like, I'm interested in, now that he has put himself in this position, what is happening in this place? What does this mean to society? What does this mean within the context of Lumen, this like massive capitalist corporate entity? Like, obviously you need the character grounding and development to be like, why would someone do this? Sure. But like, to me, that's not what the show is about. But that is what I hear when I'm listening to like, I don't know, fucking liberals talk about this show. Like, they're not picking up as clearly on like the alienation aspect, the wage slavery aspect of it all.
And to me, it's like, I so agree with you, but I also think it's all related. Like, the fact that he can't grieve is because of capitalism.
Sure.
You know, and like those things. And if we could tie those threads, which I do feel like the show has the potential still to do.
It does.
It seems like it's going there. Is like, if we can tie those threads again, yeah, just going back to like how we've seen people respond to the genocide. Right? Like, either I can't do anything about it, so I'm not going to look. I can't do anything about it, so I'm not going to listen to the recording of Hind, even though there is one. And I do think like, honor this little girl by like hearing her last words so that you can fucking wake up out of your fucking severed state and get your ass on the street. Because I don't know how anyone can listen to her being murdered by the IDF and not do, like, just shake up your humanity. But like, grieving recoires a wholeness that capitalism robs from us. And so I think that this show actually could like, you know,
community. Yeah.
But it's almost like a severed analysis, right? And we see that so often with these shows. It's like you're severing the political from the personal, the emotional and spiritual from the political. And that's part of the, that's part of the reason I think I get frustrated if there is like a show that does have politics, the creators are like, hands off, baby. Let me like, I do sometimes think it would help like for people to hear if there was that angle. Like, no, this is explicitly
definitely
what I'm saying and how I'm seeing it. And why analysis is so powerful. And it's not just critique. And we say this all the time. It's not good, bad. It's just about like how the lens through which you see things is the lens through which you see yourself.
100%. This makes me think about, remember the HBO show, Michaela Cole's show, I May Destroy You?
Oh, so
good. Like literally top 5 TV shows of all time, top 10. Like,
agreed.
But like that was a show where every step of a character's development was tied into the plot, which had something to say about politics, sexual assault, and the way that society, the way that those things exist in society. Like it was doing every single thing on every single level. Every moment of commentary was from like top down and also rooted in a character's personal experience the entire way through. So like it can be done. And I am hopeful that season 3 starts to tie those things together. Not tie those things together, but starts to just like, I don't know, starts to connect those things on a broader scale from like the personal to the political.
I think the biggest challenge is coming with like, how do you then, and we see this all the time, like the biggest challenge is like, how do you show the rebellion? How do we escape? How do people fight back?
Well, that's what I wanted to get to next. So like they're like glimmers of it. We're getting glimmers of it in this season 2 finale. Also like season 2, like it's just like so much wheel spinning. I felt like, so like, I feel like there's a lot of treading water in this, like plot wise, character development wise. It was kind of like, I felt like we were doing the same things over and over again for a lot of the season. But at the end, we got to sort of like a mini revolution between Helly, Dylan S, and the marching band from Choreography and Merriment when they show up to, congratulate Mark on completing his 25th file. And then Mark, makes a break for it to go save his wife. And then we have like a little mini revolution, insurrection on the severed floor. A moment of actual Helly's speech, which was like a real incitement to some form or the beginning forms of a class consciousness and a class solidarity between, at the very least, them and this marching band. Also very like kind of Deus Ex Machina, sort of like you literally need a bunch of bodies to keep Milchick back. So it's like, all right, send in a marching band and then have them all suddenly align with, the macro data refiners. But that was something that felt like the beginning of something of like, hey, like we have more in common. Like we have never met before, macro data refinement and Choreography and Merriment, but we have more in common than they want us to believe. And like, you have lost people, we have lost people. And like they are the ones, Lumen, Milchick, they are the ones controlling us, keeping us down here. And it is up to us to build this solidarity together and to literally revolt.
And we have the percolation of something with Mr. Milchick, who I just think like the kind of beginnings of like acknowledgement of the racial capitalism and his role in that. I mean, I think his character is the most fascinating. He's also just, I think, the strongest actor on the show. Tremel Tillman.
100%.
Unbelievable. Every time I watch, I'm like, that's a master class in film acting.
Magnetic.
Unreal.
Yes, I agree. We had his arc for this season, I felt, was like a real letdown at the end of it. But I was loving where it was going. Like,
well, I'm hoping it's not the end of his. I felt to me, I was like, oh, they could have given us so much more, but the capitalist structure of this TV show is like, hold off till season 3. We need to keep them coming. Like, we need to keep them. And so it just felt, I agree with you, like the wheel turny thing. But to me, that felt more like, let's not give them too much.
Yeah.
Because we want their money.
Yes, I am hopeful and confident that they'll continue that arc in season 3. But it's just kind of like, it felt like taking the wind out of the sails a little bit, because I felt like we had so much strong development from Milchick throughout the season. He gets this promotion. They give him the artwork of Keir, but in the style, in like portrayed as a black man. And clearly, like, there's like that internal conflict he has of like, am I being used by this company? Am I like, are they using race to manipulate me and my feelings of loyalty to this company?
Right. And all the microaggressions regarding his language, regarding, all of it. It's so well done. And he does it. He holds it in such a psychologically truthful manner, like just in his eyes. And what a, master he is of the form. Him trying
to build a connection, a little bit of solidarity with Natalie, the only other black character that works at Lumen, as far as I can remember right now. Dylan, but like in the management circles. In the management. And like, obviously Lumen is a very white company owned by a bunch of old white men. So like,
white like giving us Mormon. We don't know what it is, but they're giving religious fanatic. We'll see where they go with that.
Cultish for sure. But like the microaggressions, the performance review, it very like the policing of his language, all that I thought, and him telling his boss to eat shit. All of that was great. And I wanted more of that. And I wanted to explore more of that. But then to just at the end, basically use him as like a blunt instrument to try to like stop macro data refinement and Mark S from doing this little, rescue mission. They put him in the fucking closet and made him just like run out the door for, the finale of the episode. So I was just like, the
dance sequence.
The dance was fantastic. All of that was fantastic. I just like, I don't know. I felt like they were building steam with his arc, and then kind of were like, yeah, but then he just is just going to try to stop them again and is going to just be throwing his body at the door.
They better have big, that's all I kind of, I felt that way the finale. I was like, they better have big plans for season 3. Or I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah, I did. The stuff that I really loved the Mark Scout and Mark S conversation over the camcorder. I thought that was really compelling to me personally. Cause now we're also like in the sci-fi realm, because we're discussing like the alienation, the wage slavery aspect of the severed floor of the Indian employees. But there's also this very, very sci-fi concept of two people sharing the same body, which is not a Marxist concept. Like, we are like full sci-fi.
I think it is. See, to me, that was like the most expressive of alienation. Yeah, of just like where, I know he doesn't say that, but of like where it could go. So I guess in that sense, it's not like there, but just like, I think it represents so clear. Think about people who are in these workplaces and like, what is journaling? What is therapy?
Sure.
You're literally going to have a camcorder convo with your innie to basically unpack all of this shit that is like in work.
Yes.
To reconnect with, like, there's so much that we have to do in this society to like facilitate a conversation with ourselves. Like, there's almost this obsession with like, how do you talk to yourself? Get to know yourself. And I think that is a uniquely, I've heard this, but it's unique to a capitalist society in the sense that like the desire and kind of obsession to like know thyself and like really get to know yourself is a result of this severance, because we've all like endured it. And so to me, that was like, yes, it's sci-fi for sure. I get what you're saying, but it felt so real. I was like, yeah, this is just journaling, dude. Like, this is therapy. Like, I've done it. I've done a shit ton of it, but like, we have to do it because we are so disconnected from our own intuitive ourselves.
I hear, yes.
People video diet. Like, people literally do the camcorder shit.
I agree with you up to a point. Like, the whole like innie outie, that is the personification, manifestation of alienation, as we are discussing. But I think where this diverges in this more sci-fi story is that, and maybe not, maybe you disagree with me, but is that by the end of this season, Mark Scout and Mark S have completely different interests. Their interests are not aligned specifically in terms of their romantic life and their community life. Whereas Mark S is in love with and committed to Helly and the people on the severed floor, and Mark Scout is not. He is in love with Gemma, committed to, his sister as his community. And those interests are inherently at odds because they cannot exist in the same plane at the same time. That's what I'm saying.
You're telling me you don't know people like that? Like, literally, if you took away the innie outie talk that you're like, yeah, no, they say they have. I mean, it's literally like every...
Oh my God, you're right. Oh my God, you're right.
Like,
I just realized you're right. Holy shit.
I'm like, people who cheat on their fucking, like, have second fucking families who, like, can't actually. And again, like, the connection back to, like even I think, and this started happening in the 50s, but where I remember, like, my grandpa had, like, a whole other fucking family. It's like,
my grandpa had a whole other family.
Wow. I mean, that's...
We never talked about
surprised.
that?
No.
We never talked about this? Yeah.
I don't know if we have. Yeah, like a whole other... I mean, he didn't have children but like he had like a whole, like a woman and a family, and he was supposed to like go be with them after my mom went to college, and my grandma was very like Mad Men, kept in the house, like, and it actually gave her mental health. I mean, it drove her crazy. Like, that's where I'm like, this Severance shit it's not even sci-fi. Like, this is how people dealt with, and I'm like, this was him dealing with coming back from World War II, but it was also just dealing with what capitalism does to someone to have to be like, sever yourself from like being Jewish and being your name being Israel and like become a different person. Like, it's just like, I'm like, so when you were saying that, I'm like, and like that both of us have that's crazy.
No, that is crazy. I can't believe we never talked about that. Yeah, my mom's dad second family'd my mom's family. It was like all in secret, and then it got discovered at some point.
Yeah, like, and the management of that psychologically is not that different than like an innie and an outie to like what you have to do. And I'm telling you, I'm like,
you're right. I take it all back. I was
wrong.
And
get these men in therapy. It's not that different than a camcorder. It's not like...
You know what I'm also thinking of, which actually made it click for me as we were talking, is we used to live in LA. I know a lot of people who work at networks, at studios. I know a lot of very, very liberal, progressive people who are executives at the Amazon company. You know what I mean? On the on the film and TV side of things. These are people who I've had conversations with who are like, I believe all the things that you believe, and I'm a good person politically, and I think that, racism is bad and misogyny is bad and queer phobia is bad, and that what Trump is doing is awful, and what's happening to our country is awful. And then I say, like, but you're still working for one of those guys. They're like, yeah, I don't really work for him. And I've been like, well, you could organize. They're like, no, there's nothing we can do.
Oh, am I supposed to be personally inconvenienced? Like, exactly. It's like,
fuck, you're right.
It's not everyone who works at BlackRock. Like, most people who work at BlackRock probably hate BlackRock. I mean, it's just, you look at all of that shit. But like, this is where this show could really, hopefully, potentially to help people, is like show people a real way out of it, of like, everybody's fucking like, that's the thing. You're like, we're all fucking severed, and it serves capital so well. It serves it so well. I feel it in myself because people don't want to be personally inconvenienced. That's why they're going to be able to sell Severance to people who are like, oh, pain, I don't want to feel that. Grief, no thank you.
This is why I love talking to you about this stuff, Riv, is because like you really help me get to the revelation sometimes.
No,
so thank you.
This was a true duet.
This is a dialectic. Mm-hmm.
A dialectic, exactly. Yep. This is essentially what Marx did.
Yeah. We're basically Marx and Engels here right now.
They were just a lot drunker and had weapons on them. And definitely would not have wanted to talk about their multiple severed lives, which I'm sure they had,
Yeah.
That girlfriend and that wife. No. That's not what we're talking about.
The last thing I'll say about Severance, which like another thing that I thought was like weak sauce in this, and this will be the last thing, but like Lumen, the corporation, we're led to believe is like, I don't know, the most powerful corporation that has ever existed on planet Earth, might even like be supplanting the state in some of its authority or in the way that it like actually controls territory in the United States, or has like maybe become its own sort of like corporate fiefdom of some kind.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, like these severed employees are just like running around all the time, doing whatever the fuck they want. literally like going to fuck under some computers or stage mini rebellions, or like Mark S can just like run over to the what's it they call it, to the exports hall and like by himself run downstairs and grab his wife, who's supposedly the most important experiment that they've ever run. Like all of that just seemed like read really incongruous to me. I don't know. I want to like, they need to do some more explaining about like what is Lumen's role in the world, how much power does it actually wield, and if they're going to be presenting them as like this giant evil entity, like show me that, like I'm not asking for more violence for no reason. I'm not asking to watch people get subjugated for no reason, but like show me the power that this company wields. Like show me their private security forces. Show me the massive surveillance they have. Show me how they are doing corporate lobbying. Show me like their cozy relationship with the US government. Like show me something that is actually saying a little bit more about how these corporations operate, more than just like, we do magic science and have people in a basement. Like that's not.
Yeah, no, a fucking 1,000%. If it becomes just like, we're Handmaid's Tale, like a small crazy sect of like these crazy republic, if they like do that kind of like, we're trying to like make it just kind of like the culty small sect of MAGA. Like, no. I'm not. But the danger's there and very real and very likely.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very likely. I mean, it's going to be a hard one to wrap up. We'll see what happens. But also they've done such a good job of setting it up. I just like it would take some cojones to really have the political messaging align where we need it to be and like show us a real fucking revolution against capital, because they're going to replace capital with cult. And they're not going to say capitalism, and they're not going to say this economic system of oppression. They're just going to say these crazy goat people.
And I think the cult aspect is interesting, and there's something to be said. I mean, I think like there is a cult. There's obviously a cult of personality around Donald Trump. There's a cult of personality around Elon Musk. A lot of these like tech bros, Silicon Valley billionaire, like they believe in their own cult of personality. They like these tech lords really believe that they are like 21st century Jesuses that are going to shepherd humanity to the next stage of societal evolution. Like that, like give me that, but like tie it to our world and show us why it is a danger to our world today now.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Probably not for a while.
Yeah, probably not for. We're not going to get the next season. We're not going to get Severance season 3 until 2028.
And we'll see if we even have like, if we don't even have like an innie and outie version by then. We'll see what fucking happens.
We'll see. All right, should we go on to White Lotus?
Let's go on to White Lotus.
Okay, so now we're talking about White Lotus, created by and written by Mike White. This one's actually, there aren't a ton of writers or directors. He writes and directs all of it, which is that's a pretty astounding to like knock one of these seasons out every like year and a half, 2 years. That's a pretty huge undertaking. What's your relationship with White Lotus, the TV series? Like broadly, season 1, season 2, how did you feel? What compelled you about the White Lotus up until season 3?
It's probably what compelled me to season 3. To be honest, my take is very like, it's fun.
That's it?
This isn't even a hot I'm just like, I think it's fun. I don't find it I wouldn't even necessarily say satire. Like, to me, it's like, I really think people like watching it because it's a vacation show. It's a vacation mystery thriller show with like a touch of, like a hint of talking about class. But I think it's so fucking barely there that like, to me, I'm like, let's be real. We're all watching it because it's fun to watch these rich people on vacation. I don't think it has I don't think it has much to say in the current context. I mean, like, to me, I get the feeling I get when I watched Mike White on Survivor. And I like that feeling.
Yeah, you like watching Mike White like slam slam Cabernet and like
one
look
of my
for an
favorite
idol.
players. Yeah,
Absolutely.
But like to me, that is what White Lotus is.
That's fair, and I wouldn't push back on that too much. I think the political messaging of the show was stronger in the first and second seasons. I think maybe even mostly the first season, and has probably gotten weaker each season. I thought the stuff in the first season of like, you know, the Sydney Sweeney character bringing her friend who is not white and who is not, you know, of this class with them on this vacation had a lot of like really strong class antagonisms that ended up like resolving in a very like upsetting way that is like very true to life.
How did it resolve again?
Basically, like, if I'm remembering correctly, her friend gets caught up with like the boy who she tells to rob them, and then it like comes out that like she was a part of it, and then basically Sydney Sweeney is like, "Mommy, like I don't like this girl," or something like that. Where Sydney Sweeney basically like runs back into the arm of her rich parents and sort of like leaves her friend to fend for herself. And there's like all of like the little microaggressions of like, well, we're taking you on vacation. Like, well, we're giving you this experience, you know, like that.
Sure.
And then there's also the aspect of like, I don't know, in both seasons of like these rich white people showing up and interacting with like the native population who are then put in a position to serve these rich white people. So I think like there was that stronger
in
aspect
each
in the first
season
couple
to me,
seasons.
I guess like the relationship to the native population, it just like, it feels so inauthentic. I never felt like I was really getting any of the like true feelings of like the colonial experience. It just felt like Mike White writing for these people to me, like, which was very like vacation friendly. Like it's not stopping anyone. If anything, people are just like, ooh, we should find a White Lotus resort.
Yes, absolutely. No, that for sure is something that happened.
Like nobody's watching like, oh shit, I should consider next time I book one of these places, like the impact.
That is very true. Do you know that my dad recently told me that you can now get direct flights from JFK to Sicily
just because of White Lotus?
Just literally because of White Lotus.
Yeah.
Like if you ever wanted to, like they did not exist prior. You had to go to Rome and then fly from Rome to Sicily or like another European city, Sicily. My dad recently was like, you know, they got fucking direct flights to Catania now. Fucking White Lotus. Holy shit, what they've done for that island. Unbelievable. Yeah.
So like, that's like, I'm like, it's a fun show. But when I do have a problem when people are like, it's satire. I'm like, you're not. Tell me what did you get from that? Like, what did you learn? What did you learn from that? I'm like, be real. You want to go.
I don't know. I do that. Like, I hear what you're saying. I think I agree with you about like the way that he depicts the relationship between these tourists and the native population. Whatever commentary is there, very surface level in that, like, yes, these rich white people are rude, and these, you know, these native folks have to like subjugate themselves to them just to make a living. Like that is the most commentary we get. You're right. Like in the Hawaii season, the first season, we did not dig into the colonial history of, you know, the United States.
You're in
and
fucking Hawaii.
Not whatsoever. You're absolutely
literally right. Fucking Bad Bunny does more in one fucking song than you did in a whole fucking series. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. Satire? Like, really? What are you saying?
But there are glimmers. Like, I'm thinking of like season 2 with like the two rich couples, and the one that's like newly rich, and the other couple that has like been very rich for the whole time, and just like moments of just like, you know, what I forget the characters' names, but the ones that were like Theo James and Megan Fahey, like just moments of them being like, oh, we don't watch the news. Yeah, we don't like it. It doesn't make us feel good. Like, there's stuff in there that I'm like, I appreciate that, because I'm sure this is reaching people who think that exact thing. Like, this is like you're saying, this is like people
seeing that as that. I don't think it's doing anything to make them feel threatened or to break through their severed parts to consider that as satirical on them at all, or even beyond just like a funny little like, yeah, I can laugh about shit about lefties, like satire.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, to me, I'm like, it's a very comfortable, fun show, and I don't mind naming that. I guess I find it so weird that people are like, it's satire. It's like I'm like, What? Tell me, what are you fucking talking about? Are we seeing the same, like...
Have you ever seen Network? Like, that's satire. The fuck are you talking about?
Or just, and the world we're in, it's just, that's so topsy-turvy. I'm like, yeah, and we've said this before, I'm like, the level for satire in 2025 is so fucking heightened because you can't beat the news. Like, it's really hard to do satire in 2025, let alone, like, no one's like, not even, I would even say, even with this, like, the third season, there's a reason that you're like, and I think he has said this, like, there's a, like, with the way he writes the three women, and you're like, everyone can be comfortable. You can be as conservative and be comfortable watching this show. You can be a liberal, be comfortable. You can be a lefty, be comfortable. Everyone can be comfortable.
Yeah.
Satire is not supposed to be comfortable.
That's true. Yes. That was something I wanted to say specifically. We could start with the three blondes. Jacqueline, Lori, and Kate. Yeah, that was something that I had written down, which was like he like gestures at these tensions. He gestures at like these aggressions, or like how real world politics could and should come between friends. In that one dinner scene when they find out that Kate probably voted for Trump, but then they don't. But then he makes the choice not to go farther, because you're right. Like, he wants conservatives to watch this show. He wants there to be like a little bit of discomfort and to like hint at discomfort, gesture at it. But we're not actually going to unpack it. We're not actually going to have these women like fully read one another and explain to one another and the audience like why this is a problem, or like what's actually happening underneath the surface. So yeah, it's very, very surface level.
And it's equally, like, I've read conservative takes of just being like, no, this is actually satirizing the liberal. Like, everyone can see it from their own viewpoint, because it is that, like, it is that safety of like, well, I'm just painting people. Like,
yeah, and ultimately, I felt like this season in particular was just like extremely cynical, and it's just kind of like a really mean, by the end of it especially, like a pretty mean-spirited season towards their characters, you know. And I remember taking a writing class at some point, and like a screenwriting class, and a teacher saying, you know, think of yourself as God, and you want to constantly be asking yourself, like, what's like one of the most fucked up things I can do to my character? Not to saying that you should be like punishing your character all the time, but just like, what is the worst thing that could happen to this character at any given moment? Or like, what's the most interesting thing? Or like, what is the thing that would specifically affect this character the most? Just in like a way of like how to build conflict within scenes between characters in plot. And this felt much more of like, how can I punish my characters the most possibly? Like, how can I give them and the audience sort of like the most punishing experience by the end of it?
Right, because when you're creating the conflict, you're ideally saying like, I'm putting this extreme thing because I ultimately want them to either generate a revelation, or not generating a revelation, at least generate one for the audience, that you're like, they come across this challenge or this horrific thing and we're learning something from it. I didn't know what I'm supposed to learn from this brother jacking his brother off. I really was like, I refused to watch. I saw it coming and I was like, I really don't need to see this. I don't need to see this. Personally, I was like, I just didn't understand. Like, I was like, what is that is it supposed to be? I mean, I guess you could read into it, but again, with satire, I was just like, there wasn't enough. There's just so much that we're supposed to like assume. I was just like, what is this story?
Yeah, the incest storyline really fell flat for me, as like shocking as it was. And I'm not against some like, you know, some
no, but give me a reason.
Shocking content for but like
HBO just seems to be obsessed with it, I will say.
I mean, and Mike White has said that he's like likes to be a provocateur, but like you're saying, it needs to be rooted in something. Like, that was the least interesting thing about that family, the Ratliff family. Like, I was much more interested in, I thought the closest he got to something that was like an actual real commentary was Piper's journey from like wanting to rebel against coming from so much money and being like, well, how do I do that? I have to like literally ditch all of my material possessions, my life as I know it, and go live in a Buddhist monastery, and then her retreat from that after spending one night in the monastery back into the loving arms of rich mommy and daddy. I was like, that's something. Like that is saying something. And that is probably like, it like echoed the Sydney Sweeney arc in the first season.
The problem is that then you look at like, Parker Posey, national treasure, and the character she creates always like fucking brilliant, national treasure. And what is the quote that like now keep being used that she had as the mom, where she's like, I'm too old. She's like,
oh, I don't think I'm meant to live an uncomfortable life.
Yes. Which, again, like, this is the perfect, you're like, without giving us an example of like the juxtaposition, which a satire really needs, of like the people who actually are living in like, and we never see any, there's no poverty in this show. You don't see any of the real material consequences of this. So without that, you take a quote like that easily, and it's now like all over TikTok as memes of people be just showing them, I'm not supposed to. And what that feeds into, particularly in this moment in time, is this severed state we were talking about. Is this like, I can't look because I've worked too hard to be uncomfortable. It's such a psychologically fucked up capitalist serving mindset that I'm not saying shouldn't be her character. But when you don't take responsibility for putting that character on screen and actually do real satire and show a real like triangle of sadness where you get a real like, here's the downstairs, here's the impact of that, where you're like, now I see why it's satire, because I see like that mentality.
Like now you're like deserted on a fucking island, and you have to build a
There's
fire. There's
real violence, and not just like someone shot someone on this resort, the murder.
Mm-hmm.
Like bullshit that comes up in this that is like paperback airplane mystery, whatever, which I'm not saying is like, again, Mike White, love it. Like, but like, that's not what the impact of it is. Like, then you get that on, and I'm just like, everyone's using it on TikTok to kind of spiral into like, it's so fun. I want to adopt this rich woman's mentality, because she is also severed. She just like, she's totally severed. And like, people are actually adopting that as opposed to like seeing the consequences of that severance.
There is no meaningful confrontation of Parker Posey's lived experience, her ideology, and anything that actually opposes that in any material way whatsoever.
And that doesn't mean, I've seen people are like, every episode, and I think it's true, it's like the rich people always get to go away, and that's true for life. Yes, they always get to leave the island, they always get to leave the resort, no blood on their hands, just back to their lives. But we, the storyteller, the writer, owes the audience for us to really see the devastation. So we don't want to actually, if watching art is a rehearsal for life, and you're supposed to put yourself in the character's shoes and be like, what would I do? What do I want to do? Like, who do I want to be in the story of this world? It shouldn't be that I want to leave and be fucking Parker Posey, and let's be fucking real. Like, yeah, who do you want to be on that show?
Yes. I remember in the first season, like, that is the arc of multiple characters of just like, the rich and the powerful are usually going to get to retreat back to their circles of wealth and power, and people are going to choose comfort over discomfort, and people are going to make the easy choice rather than the choice that is like harder for themselves ideologically or materially. Like, all of that is there, but you can only have that arc so many times before we start to be like, okay, then like, what's the point? Are you saying that like, just like, so where are we going with this? Like, tell me something new, show me something different, or show me someone who is about to retreat back into their life of wealth and privilege, but then can't anymore.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I really disliked about this season, is that the entire Ratliff family had no fucking idea the entire time until the very end. There was never the revelation of Tim is going to jail, your wealth is gone. They literally chose to omit that. And I've heard people being like, oh, it's such a smart choice because like, that's actually not what the season was about. It was about like, they're all having their own journeys, and like now, so like, and they've all basically, Piper, Victoria, they've all made the choice to go back to this life of wealth and privilege. But now after the season ends, they're not going to get to. Show me that. That's interesting. Like, that is compelling. Like, I want to see.
Totally.
I want to see rich people have to live like regular people. Because we know, like, the Ratliffs aren't going to be suddenly, like, destitute and on the street. They're just going to be, like, living, I don't know, a lower middle class life. Show me that, show me what conflict arises from that. And the choice to just, like, totally skip over that and just not even have it be part of the season, I was like, that's some fucking weak sauce.
Totally agree.
What did you make of the whole Natasha Rothwell, like, Belinda, Zion, Greg Gary timeline or storyline? I saw a lot of people being like, "Oh, she's the new Tanya. She left, what's his name, Porn Chai, the dude that she slept with who works at the resort. Like, she left him in the dust the same way that Tanya left her in the dust. They even used some of the same language that Tanya used when she had, like, let her down. Like, the moment she comes into money, she's gonna, like, leave everyone behind the same way that Tanya did." I felt like that was kind of bullshit. Like, that's, like, some lazy analysis.
I mean, I didn't think that storyline had anything. Like, there was nothing there to analyze. Like, and I felt that in season 1 too. I remember being so excited for her character because I thought that was where, like, the satire, again, that would be the juxtaposition. That's where we'd learn the most. And I just think I don't think he knows how to write that character.
That's fair. I really liked her storyline in season 1 because I thought that would, like, specifically her relationship with Tanya, because it was showing how, like, these fucking rich, aloof assholes like a Tanya who are just so, I don't know, stupid, like severed, dumb, like, not uneducated, but, like, someone who clearly doesn't, like, someone who's clearly so siloed off in their own world, they have no connection to other people or what other people's lived experiences are, can just sort of, like, toy around with this woman for a week and be like, "Oh yeah, like, I'll give you a bunch of money, like, sure, oh, never mind," and not have any of that consequence register for, like, the Tanya character. Whereas it, like, for Belinda, it, like, is one of the most devastating moments of her life. Like, I thought that was really strong in season 1.
I just thought that should have been more. Like, it was so little. I just felt like it was such a smaller storyline than it deserved. So I guess
Definitely,
I was like,
yes.
Even in this one, I was like, it was such a small. There was so much more that could have been said and done, and we could have seen so much more from her. But I think in the effort to keep it light and enjoyable and non-satirical, they're just like, I'm like, I don't know much. I mean, I guess that take makes sense. Like, to me, that makes sense given that I just don't think there's much more there.
There wasn't much more there. And that's what I really disliked about it. And that, like, the most we got was her making the choice to leave. And I didn't like that comparison that was being drawn between her and Tanya. Because I'm like, these are two totally different people with totally different lived experiences. You're talking about, like, a white woman who came from generational wealth who's worth $500 million. And this black woman who has come into money for the first time in her life, who is literally living on an island with a murderer who knows that she knows that he murdered someone. And it's like, she didn't promise Porn Chai. She wasn't like, "Yes, Porn Chai, I'm going to help your dreams come true." Like, he was like, "Let's start a business." And she was like, "I don't know about that." I felt like it was a completely unfair comparison that, like, gave really short shrift to what Belinda, the character, had been through up until this point.
Yeah, I guess we just didn't. We were left to assume a lot about Belinda, which sucks.
Left to assume and left to project. Like, I feel like Mike White really wanted to be like,
I'm like, I don't know. We don't really know any. I don't really know Belinda's life, or, like, she could be middle class. Like, we just don't know enough.
I mean, we get the sense she's, like, very open about, like, man, nothing ever fucking goes right for me. Like, she's clearly, she works at a resort, I'm sure she does okay, but, like, it seems like she's been fucking hustling.
So is Porn Chai. I mean, in some ways, like,
absolutely.
In the context of him, yeah, I wish they had kind of formed more. So I would have been. I was disappointed at the lack of solidarity there, or, like. But again, it's like he gives us so little. It's like I'm just like, I don't know. Get on the boat, get your money. Like, we just got so little from any of them. It just feels like I was like, are we in Thailand? Like, you give us, like, such little.
Yes. This one, more than any of the other seasons, felt extremely disconnected from, like, I don't know, the actual culture of Thailand, other than the whole
when they were on the street. Yeah. And then also the scene where they get shot with the water
gun. Yeah, the water gun festival.
And then I guess Walton Goggins going out, but it still didn't teach me any. It didn't give a sense that there was any kind of perspective of, like, how these people were really meant to feel about the tourism and the colonialism and this. Yeah, it was just very like, this is a set for this TV show.
No, definitely not. If anything, it was more interested in the fact, and this is true, that there are a bunch of like Russian expats in Thailand because of Thailand's extradition laws. There were a bunch of Russians who at the beginning of the Russian-Ukraine war left Russia because they were like, I don't want to fucking fight in this war. So like that is a true,
right.
That's a real thing in Thailand. And the show seemed more interested in the lives of these Russian guys and what their lives were on the island and their relationship to these tourists than any of the native people. Like Gaitak and Mook, basically no interaction with the people, with these white tourists. Like we don't know their opinions on these tourists. We don't know how these tourists affect them and their families and their communities. Like that was completely left out.
And that scene with Sam Rockwell and Walton Goggins, where Sam Rockwell gives the infamous monologue about, I say infamous because I feel like that was like one of the most talked about things, you know, his monologue about
time.
Wanting to be first, like coming there, being an alcoholic, being this like, just spending all this money, having sex with all of these Asian women, which is
a sex tourist. Yeah.
Sex tourist, which is like, you know, they kind of touch on, they never really touch on the politics of that. And again, how horrific that is or what the complexities of it. And then him wanting to actually become this Asian woman. And I think that was a great scene, like just in terms of acting, I was like, great scene. But it's almost like the whole monologue, just like, the way it leaves out anything about the women is the show, right? Like,
yes,
you're like, that monologue is the show. It's just like, there is no, and I think in order to make it satire, you would have had cuts to these women even the way they film it, you would have had cuts to these women or like real depictions of these women in the bar that they're sitting at. And like the whole thing is focused on these two men. You don't even see the presence of these sex workers anywhere. And then when you do see them later, they all seem to be having a good time. You don't get any sense of like pain or violence or complexity.
Yeah.
So yeah, that whole monologue kind of felt like, and then Mike White talked about that monologue and his inspiration for it came from watching Chris Lilly play. Do you know Chris Lilly?
Yeah. Summer Heights High.
Lilly, yeah, Summer Heights High. Yeah, so he basically saw Chris Lilly playing he was playing an Asian woman in one of these TV shows. And that sparked the idea for this monologue.
Okay.
Like his interest. I can't remember the details of it, but it was like not even like, oh, I'm trying. It wasn't like the explanation was like there was this, you know, and not that I don't think he's a smart writer and thinking about these things, but like.
But what was he actually saying? Like that's what I left. I was like, this is, I mean, Sam Rockwell's one of the best actors, one of the best modern actors, and like is delivering the shit out of this monologue. And this is a crazy thing to say and to talk about. But other than that, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to, I wasn't left being like, wow, I really learned something about the human condition or about the life of an addict or of a sex tourist or like what any of this means. It kind of felt like, wouldn't it be crazy if Sam Rockwell said this fucked up, crazy shit? Like that's what I felt like the intent was.
Underwritten. Yeah. Comfortable.
Yeah.
Again, just like super comfortable. When the most uncomfortable thing about the show was watching this brother give his brother a hand job, and it's like, what does that have? What is that satirizing? You're like, this is not a that's the most uncomfortable thing. Like,
yes,
not a satire. Get out of here.
I really quickly on like those brothers, like I didn't understand anything with the Lockie character, like why, like when Amy Lou Wood, Chelsea says like there are no drugs I could take that would make me want to fucking jerk off my brother. I was like, yes, that's correct. That is 100% correct. There are no, I don't care how fucked up you are. I don't care how much Molly you've taken. I don't care how drunk you are. That is never ever the instinct unless there's like a deeper pathological thing happening that we're not even going to get to.
And if you're going to go there, like there's nothing wrong with it, but it was like with all this stuff, it's like half-touched ideas for the sake of being like, yeah, something's fucked up. Something's fucked up. This is happening. But like, I mean, mostly people watch it because they're like, I want to be on a resort.
And with the Saxon character, Patrick Schwarzenegger, who I thought was very good. I will give him that. I thought he was very good because he's been catching a lot of shit for being a Nepo baby, which he is, and he should. And he did have that one interview where he's like, people have been calling me a Nepo baby, but like they haven't seen how hard I've been working, how many auditions I haven't booked, and like how long I've been at this and whatever. I'm like, fair, dude, but like,
you look like a child to me. How long have you been at it?
Sure, there's that, but also like And one of my biggest problems, and we've never actually had the full Nepo baby conversation, but just like a little snippet is like, yeah, that's true. Like, I'm sure you have been going on auditions and you have been going to acting classes and you have been working hard and there has been a lot of rejection, but you weren't working at a fucking restaurant. You weren't at, tending bar. You weren't working as a valet. You weren't paying off your student loans. You came from a class where you had the means and the comfort to pursue this artistic lifestyle in a way that made it much, much, much easier for you to eventually attain these things. Along with the fact that like your dad is fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger. So like, fuck off with that.
Well, and also just to add to that, it's like, because there's been a few recent really good takes, I feel like, on the Nepo baby conversation that I felt like were new. I'm trying to remember who this creator was online. But just some things that I was like, oh, I didn't, just like how it's not only that that it's like, yeah, your career is easier for all the things that you just listed. You are in this system, particularly as a Nepo baby, for a reason, because of like the way in which Hollywood is shifting and also dying, and like the capitalist need to like continue this empire of like the Schwarzenegger, of like, the Nivola, like even these people that you find out and then you're like, oh yeah, those are their parents, or because branding and like,
and the risk aversion of Hollywood as well.
Yeah.
It's we have so much more potential to maintain our margins and turn a profit if it is a Schwarzenegger rather than some fucking person that is probably a much better actor than him, but that, doesn't have a famous daddy name.
Yeah. It's just so, okay. I mean, why? I don't know why spend any breath fighting the fact that you're Nepo? It's like so obvious to fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but with his character, people really liked his arc of like, oh, he went from being like a frat bro to like a little bit more introspective. I don't know. It's the same thing that we've been talking about.
Was that his fucking arc? I thought his arc was like, I got jerked off by my brother and now I'm fucking severely severed for life. Like, introspective. I thought he was just like...
A little bit of that, but there was like his interactions with Chelsea and, like her giving him the book and him being like, clearly understanding that he's been living somewhat of a hollow life when she's like, you don't have a soul, all of that. And him wanting to like make some growth as like a human. I thought that was like fine. But he was such a piece of shit when we were introduced to him. Like, it's the same thing we were talking about, like gesturing at some sort of a character arc or resolution. Like, I don't know. This seems like a dude who has probably not been good with women, like clearly, or like been living in a way that is potentially like violent or sexually coercive, or at the very least, just like the way he just objectifies women at the beginning. Like, he was never held accountable for any of that specifically.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I'm thinking about Mike White's... Did you watch Enlightened?
I didn't, but I know that people love it.
So good. And he's just he just goes there so much. That to me is satire. Like, that's dramedy. The willingness to give us any of those levels. And you're right. You're like, this is a person who we know is probably violent and capable of like doing something devastating on this island, and that we'd never go there.
Or at the very least, like, he is objective, like at the very least treating women like objects, which is like in its own way, which is a form of misogyny in its own way. Like, none of that was ever challenged. He was never held accountable for that. And then lastly, like, I mean, Gaitak and Mook, barely characters, barely an arc. Like, oh, we get it. Like, you're not violent. This isn't the job for you. But like this woman and poor Mook, this character, like the most thinly drawn of any in the entire series, I think. Just like,
yeah,
I like men who are ambitious and are okay with violence. Like, get the fuck out of here.
And really fucking problematic when you're like, it's the only Thai woman in this show that does a lot of like, it's the only representation we get in a show that like has all the men sexualizing or talking about wanting to be this woman or not this woman. Or like,
what a missed opportunity.
I mean, there's also the owner's wife, I guess, so she's not the only woman. But.
Sure. But yeah, that I thought was such one of the poorest storylines in any of these seasons. And then lastly, with Rick and Chelsea, this is where I just thought the show just got so cynical and so mean-spirited about these two characters who I thought were like, maybe they didn't have a lot to say about, I don't know, their roles as these wealthy tourists on this island, or like where they came from or whatever. But they were like fun to watch and had like an interesting dynamic. And I thought the choice to just be like, they're both gonna fucking die at the end, and it's gonna be this guy's fault, I thought was just like a really kind of lazy and cynical choice. It was like, how do I make you, the audience, feel the worst at the end of this? And I'm gonna kill off because I thought Amy Lou Wood was giving like a really lovely performance. I thought she was like one of the breakout stars of this season. Just like
totally
so fun to watch, so compelling. I think there is something to say about like the relationship between these older men and these younger women, which they like, again, kind of got into, kind of like gestured at, but we didn't learn anything about where she came from, why she is chosen, other than like, I fell in love with him after he told me his life story. There's also the money aspect. There is clearly a class and dependency and like wealth aspect to this that they never touched on at all.
Yeah, like the satire to me is like people are using it as like, I'm like, naming something isn't, just showing something isn't satire.
Yes, exactly.
You're like, yeah, that happened. Yeah, people say that. You go to one of these resorts, I've been to a resort like this, you're like, yeah, that happens. Okay.
Yeah, these are things that happen.
Where's exactly, like, what are you saying about it? And if we can all be comfortable watching and share a politic, then it's not satire.
Yeah. And I thought the choice for her specifically, and Rick also, to die because of, he just couldn't, keep those demons at bay, I just thought was like really lazy and cynical, and just like, how do I make the most devastating choice to the audience at this point?
Yeah.
Lazy writing and plotting. Like Jim Hollinger shows up at the buffet, knows that he is his father, and is like, fuck you and your slut mom. Like, just like lazy writing. Like, we need him to anger Rick so that Rick is ultimately going to shoot him. But it's like, I don't believe that. I don't believe if this guy knows that he is his father, he's not going to come in and like antagonize this guy. This guy held a gun to him once. He's not going to come in and being like, I'm going to fucking antagonize you and call your mom a slut in front of everybody. And just so that he can like take the gun and shoot him. And then a moment later, Sritala is like, he is your father. Like, come on, lazy ass writing.
I was like, do we have to finish this, Tommy? We know. And like, we're like, fine.
It just was, it felt very cynical, very emotionally manipulative. It was just kind of like, what's like the most rude, devastating thing I can show you right now. And also like Lachlan's fake death, I thought was really, again, emotionally manipulative. Like, either make the choice or don't, and like very clearly you're like, we get it, the smoothie, the thing, no. You're like, I see it coming. Which and I get it, Mike White's. I think I saw. This is not factual per se because I don't remember, but I think I saw like a quote of his being like, if you don't like it, like, don't come to my party, that kind of thing. Which I get, every creator has the right to say. But it kind of feels like that's the vibe of it, is just like it's become like I don't need to say anything. Like, I just want to go have fun and make a show at a resort. Yeah. About people who go to a resort. Yeah. And that's more than anything, that's what this season was. So we'll see. We'll see if we can maybe juice it back up for season 4. All right, let's give these shows some awards. And we're going to do both of these shows together. We're not going to do 3 awards for each show. This will actually be a little bit more fun. So best politics. Who's the best politics between both Severance season 2 and White Lotus season 3? Who has the best politics? My first pitch would be Helly R from Severance. Any Helly R, not Helena Egan. Because Helly R gives the inciting like revolutionary speech of like, hey, we are a class in and of ourselves. Which was what an amazing reveal when we find out who she is. That was like, we didn't mention that, but like when they all have that moment and they're like you find out who they are in their lives. Oh, that's the end of season 1. That was amazing. Amazing shit. Yeah. Yeah. Helly R for sure. I think Helly R and Severance for sure. And I don't know if there's anyone from this season of White Lotus that has good politics. Everyone's pretty shitty. If any politics. No, like if any yeah, I don't think people... If any, yeah. There's a lot of politics, but all very bad. Right. Yeah, it's definitely Helly R of all of them. Okay, Helly R between both shows. Worst politics. This will be a crowded field. This is very crowded. This is very, very crowded. So from Severance, you could go with like, let's say, Keir Egan, the patriarch of the Egan family, believes that he is techno Jesus, and that, I don't know, humanity should be serving whatever the fucking Egan dream is. So that's one.
I mean, White Lotus, I guess the Jason Isaacs character, the dad.
Tim Ratliff, pretty bad, finance criminal.
Bad.
Finance criminal, definitely a Republican voter for sure.
Definitely donating to
donating. Yeah. That's, you know what? We did Victoria's whole speech about we should be living this well, because if we don't, it's like a waste, and we are we are so lucky that we get to live this well. We should enjoy it.
Get so close to good satire, but the problem is
so close
without showing any of what she's like, the juxtaposition. Literally, people are taking away from the show. She might be right.
Fucking exactly. Or showing it's not our fault that we are in this position, that we have this much wealth, but also in my life and in my politics, I'm going to donate to politicians, vote for policies that actually immiserate the people beneath me and maintain my power. That's where the satire is don't just say we're lucky, we're just don't feel bad about being lucky. Show me about how you are actually contributing to the material immiseration of other people, and how this is all bullshit. It's not just you're lucky, it's that you are a part of this class and your interests are literally against everyone else. Sorry, that was a little bit of a deviation. But yeah, Tim Ratliff, Victoria Ratliff. Yeah, I don't know. Between Tim Ratliff and Keir Egan. Keir Egan probably has done more terrible shit, if we're being real.
We don't know. Yeah.
He's got a woman trapped in the basement,
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's got to go to Keir Egan. Although, Tim Ratliff is donating to Keir, so it's all one and the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, if things don't work out at his hedge fund, he'll take a job at Lumen in a heartbeat, for sure.
Best supporting or best...
Better supporting character.
Better supporting. I think we kind of touched on this, all of the underdeveloped characters from, the working class and from the countries that this White Lotus exists on.
Yes.
I think they all, particularly, I would love Natasha Rothwell's character to be more full... All of them. And then in Severance, I think just
hold on, but really we kind of danced around it, but all of the people of color in White Lotus, very underwritten.
Always,
very underwritten.
In every season. And you can't have satire without, to me, I'm what the fuck? And Severance?
For Severance, it's Tramiel Tillman. It's Mr. Milchick. And that's just because of performance. And the character.
And the character. And yeah, didn't need I really could have done without that episode with what's her name?
Oh my God, but we didn't even talk about her, the Patricia Clarkson character.
God,
Ms.
that
Cobell.
Episode was
that character, that storyline. Oh my God, just nails on a chalkboard. Holy shit.
Oh my God. Please, why are we getting this and not Mr. Milchick's fucking episode?
I don't like this. What?
I think we know why, but
terrible, brutal storyline that just gave me nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. And when you're so desperate by this season for a fucking answer to something, you're please.
And I love Patricia Clarkson. She's fantastic and she's doing a good job. But that character,
Patricia Arquette.
Patricia Arquette. My bad. She's
mixing
great.
up Patricias.
Mixing up the Patricias. She's giving a good performance, but it's that character is just so intense and grating and strange. It's don't give me more of this. Don't give me only this. My God.
It's giving Handmaid's Tale. It's just giving get over it. We get that's the religious part that I'm please tell me this isn't just going to turn into a full obsession with some kind of that has nothing to do with capitalism. It's all about just weird Christians.
Yeah. I would watch more Mr. Milchick. Give me his home life. Where did he grow up? How did he end up here? Just give me all of it.
Yeah. Well, that's that. I think we did pretty good, actually. I'm actually amazed at how much
you were able to remember.
Yeah, how much was still there, and how much I do think people have talked a lot about this, but hopefully you got something new from our dialectic.
Yeah, we are one of the few anti-capitalist movie podcasts, so we're probably coming at it at a slightly different angle. So yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much for listening. And, maybe we'll do more of these TV episodes here and there. And/or season 2 is coming out soon. So maybe I'll finally get you to watch that.
That's right. And/or season 2. Yeah. From Disney Plus.
From the Disney Corporation. Yes, contradiction.
Although I do know a few people who've been begging to come on as a guest for that. So maybe we can extend that and have some.
Yeah. Well, we've been teasing it for years. Maybe this is the time to actually figure it out and do it.
Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Riv.
Bye.
To get ourselves a treat.
Thank you all so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok and now YouTube. And if you want to support the show and get access to our Patreon episodes, the link is in the episode description in your podcast player or at mvcpod.com.
That's right. And as a reminder, we donate our ad space. So if you're part of a leftist or progressive organization and you would like to run an ad on this program, please email us at moviesvscapitalism@gmail.com.
For next week, we will be watching the 1981 action sci-fi classic Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.